Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast, where faith meets the front lines of culture.
We break down what's happening in the world, what's behind it, and how believers can stand strong in truth.
We're not here to fear the times, we're here to understand them.
Because being watchmen means staying awake, staying ready, and staying grounded in the Word.
Let's get into it. Welcome to the Modern
Watchmen
podcast with Tom and Wendy. Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Lovely. Today we want to talk about dollar bills, y'all. More money, more problems.
That's good.
And how to think about it, how to look at it, what we can do about it, because I don't know if you've noticed, but things keep getting more expensive. And I don't suppose that's gonna change. Actually, statistically, I'd have to look this up again because I don't have the 2025 statistic. But in 2024, it cost the average American $13,000 more to live the same life that you lived in 2022. That's crazy. That's crazy because most people aren't getting a $1,000 a month raise in any given year. So that's hard that's the same life. That's the same bills. We're talking about groceries, gas, travel, not getting out of debt, not paying down your mortgage, none of the get ahead activities. That is the amount of money it was costing as of last year to live the same life we were living just a couple of years ago. So I imagine it's not much. It's probably not that dramatically different this year, only because inflation has tapered. But remember, the inflationary numbers are referencing, like when we get a inflation percent, we are talking about year over year, correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
So as an example, I say this to say, during the Biden years, when we were at 9%, 7% inflation, we are talking about
compared to the year before.
The year before, right? So if you have 2 years in a row where you're at 7% inflation, you're 7% inflation again this year. Well, you were 7% inflation last year. So you could see how over the course of 2 or 3 years.
Or if they say, you'll hear it in the news, like inflation is down and it's only at 3.8%, which is basically a manipulated number as it is, but it's 3.8%
over last year's
over
hideous
last year's 6.5%,
Yeah.
and the year before that's 11%. You know what I mean? So like it's
inflation held for a really long time around 2% was pretty typical.
that is what the Fed's stated goal is.
Correct.
Generally.
Well, I think
was for a long time.
Yeah,
that is not what their goal is necessarily.
Before Biden, probably, well, I don't know, definitely like the Obama years, we stayed pretty steady at 2%. I remember that because I remember thinking about like my income and how it would have to grow 2% year over year to just keep up with the same amount of buying power, right? So even at 2%, I remember thinking that and thinking, gosh, I don't really have an income stream that is able to grow that rapidly. And that was at 2%.
I saw a really good on Zero Hedge today. It was visualizing the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar.
Can you send me that? I'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely. I'll screenshot it and also send you the link.
Okay.
But basically, it's in 1910, they had it at the number to, let's call it the control number is 1,000. And then in 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act created a central bank with the ability to manage the country's money supply, it dropped from 1,000 all the way down to about 500. So cut it in almost half. And then it
just
actually
by the instituting of that, the Federal Reserve.
I believe
That's wild.
it was an absolute, what would you say, just a complete change in how we managed money. It was the leaving
Yeah.
of,
How was it before? What was?
well, it was I don't know the dollar denomination, but like a dollar note could be, it was the gold standard. A dollar note could be taken in for X amount of gold. I don't
Well,
know if
that
it was
was
like,
still true after the Federal Reserve.
but not for long.
Well,
And-
until the 70s.
Well, you know what it also could have been is World War One, partly.
Oh, that
wars
makes that
wars
hit.
are very inflationary. Our greatest inflationary times are wars. But so then it actually kind of came back up to around 800 in the 30s, and then
Which is post the Great
post World War
Depression.
One and the Depression. And then it just absolutely fell off a cliff again through World War Two, which people don't realize.
This is
but
the
like
purchasing power of the dollar.
the purchasing power of the dollar. So people don't realize, but like there's so much other history to talk about during the 40s. I mean, if you think about 1940 through 45, what comes to mind? The only thing people talk about historically
Yeah.
is the World War. Now, there were so many other things going on, or consequences that were outside of the like headline news or the headline history that we read, and one of which was a massive decline in the purchasing power of the dollar. And then it kind of tapered down. So it went all the way from about like 800 or just shy down to 400 post World War II. And then it had kind of a steady.
Can you give a better illustration of what this number represents? You're saying 400, 1,000 being the representative number?
Well, it's kind of hard to describe in that like that's why like what a dollar could buy in 1910, does that make sense? It lost half of its power,
I see.
purchasing power, meaning it would now take $2
Yeah.
to buy that
the
thing.
same thing. Okay.
And so it's a kind of a relative scale, at least this graphic. When you're talking about purchasing power, you have to kind of compare it
Give
to
it a number.
what are you comparing it to originally? Because you can say the purchasing power of a dollar since 1990, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But since the formation of the Federal Reserve, this is according to Zero Hedge, this is the Federal Reserve's own data. The U.S. dollar has lost 93% of its purchasing power since the formation of the Federal Reserve. And what's actually really, and to this day, what's really crazy is like I felt like we experienced some pretty substantial inflation. It wasn't hyperinflation. It wasn't scary like
In Biden years?
in COVID, because it happened. It started during COVID.
No, it didn't. It didn't actually.
Well, when we
'Cause
started,
Biden was inaugurated in 2021. So that whole first year of COVID,
Sure.
we didn't see that.
Okay, so Biden years, yes, but there's a lot of reasons why, and this isn't one of those things where it's only Biden's fault.
Oh
it's
no,
actually
Trump
really
spent a whole lot of money at that first year.
I guess what we need to get better at is instead of blaming a president or
Right.
something, it's like all of Congress, that the Chuck Schumers and the
Don't get me started on Congress today.
that they were there for George Bush, they were there for Obama, they were there for
Yep.
Donald Trump 1, they were there for Biden, they were there for Donald Trump 2. Like, these are the people that
Did
are
you
the
know-
real problem. The presidents are Biden was an idiot, and Trump's not perfect either, but they're not the entire reason why inflation
Biden
occurred.
actually, I don't know that he made a single decision as
Right.
president.
The more we learn, right? But what's really interesting is that like the inflation that we experienced during that, it barely shows up on
Until
no, it barely shows up on this graphic, if that makes sense. So
no,
like
it doesn't.
meaning the
damage had
inflation-
already been done.
No, what I'm saying is that like
What are you saying?
try and keep up. The inflation that we experienced in those let's say mid-COVID,
Don't even register on this graph.
barely registers. So these big periods of time, the World War I, World War II, and frankly, kind of Vietnamish, were much more inflationary than what we even experienced. But
We've been on a slow taper off.
when you hear these
When is that? When does this slow taper? So we're on, what is this?
in like the 1980,
Okay, so in the 1980,
it started to really slow down.
slow down, but
Right.
but a slow taper.
I will point out that from 1980 forward until it was basically the longest stretch of kind of America at peace that we've ever had. You know, through we had the Cold War, yes, but the Cold War was actually winding down. You know, the fall of the Berlin Wall came early 80s. And we had a pretty good stretch of peace for 20, 25 years or so, plus or minus a little bit. And then we kicked off, you know, the global war on terror. But the bottom line is the purchasing power of the dollar has continued to decline. The overall trend is down without a doubt. And by the Fed's own data, the purchasing power of the dollar has gone down since the Federal Reserve was created by 93%. It's important to note, and again, I'm saying some of this stuff, if you already know it, great, but I just kind of want to get it out there for people who this is a newer subject to maybe, but is one of the only options for the US dollar with the amount of debt we have accrued. There's one option is default on the debt, say we're not paying it, and we're going to start a new central bank digital currency or something. We're going to create
What
a new.
happens then? You just don't have to pay it?
I don't really want to go too far down that, but like, yeah, you don't pay it, but nobody will let you borrow any money. It's like going through a bankruptcy, right? So now you're back at square one.
We need to not be able to borrow any money.
See, there's a lot of people who would say, I don't care. And here, it's important to note, while that would be catastrophic for our economy, don't get me wrong, though 100%, because our entire economy is based on debt. Consumers live on debt. You know, companies live on debt. Our government lives on debt. So that would be catastrophic. I don't want to make it sound like it's a good, easy plan. However, it would force like a gold standard. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. It would force a return to, if you don't have it, you don't spend it kind of thing. Or the other option is if you want to keep the game go. One thing to add to that, the people who would get screwed, so to speak, on not getting the debt paid are mostly the very banks that have been profiting off of the back of, you know what I mean? It is nation states and banks. You know, a lot of people be unhappy, but it's not you and me. We would have our own pain because none of us would be able to borrow much of anything. There wouldn't be any liquidity to borrow. But the default wouldn't occur to you and me so much. It would occur to...
Sounds great. Let's go.
I mean, you can make an argument for that, and a lot of people are down with it. I could be convinced in a way.
I just don't want to do a central bank digital currency. But I'd be down to... I'd be down to square that up and move on over to gold or silver. Let's go. I vote for that.
And people who are big gold and silver bugs are much more... They're like, hey, I got gold and silver. I'm cool with that. You know, we'll be fine.
Bugs?
They can call it gold bugs is a term.
Gold bug.
Yeah.
That sounds cute.
Anyhow, the other option, and the option that our central bank and government have chosen thus far, is to inflate the debt down. So if, for example, I mean, you could look at this in 5 different metrics, but like...
This is really hard for me to wrap my head around. Like what you're about to say.
Well, think about, there's a ratio called debt to GDP. So let me see what our debt to GDP is right now. But basically it's the amount of debt, which we're around 38, 39 trillion, something like that.
Brutal.
We're going up. Is it like a
so
trillion
crazy.
every 3 months now or something like that?
That's so crazy.
So our debt is about 39 trillion. The GDP is, I want to say it's about 12. No, it's not even. Yeah, it's like 12 trillion. Let me see.
And the GDP is like what we make as a country. Is that right? Our
The
income,
gross
if you will.
domestic product.
So
Yes.
our income versus our debt is what we're calculating right now.
And obviously these things go up and down a little bit. We're always hoping that the economy is growing. If the economy isn't growing more than a certain amount, if the GDP isn't growing more than a certain amount, that's indicative of a recession,
Does
etc.
GDP
So
include
in 2024, which is the most recent numbers we have complete, the U.S. nominal gross domestic product was about 29 trillion. So that sounds more like it because our debt to GDP ratio is 124%. So
we spend 124% of what we make.
No, our debt, what we owe, is 124% of the value of the entire economy. Now, here's the thing.
Okay.
Of the $30 trillion that our GDP is, our government's revenue is only like 4 trillion, right? And the reason why we get into more debt is because
we can't pay off our
we
debt.
spend.
We can't. We spend way more than we make.
So the government collects 4 trillion, and these
What's
are
the
kind of rough
deficit?
numbers, but they're pretty close.
The deficit is that difference.
The deficit is the difference between the
What
money
we
that we
spend
bring
over,
in revenue, and that includes taxes and tariffs, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between the money we bring in revenue as a nation
Okay.
versus the amount of money the government spends.
Okay.
So we're spending about 6-something trillion. We're making about 4 trillion. And that is why the debt goes up, is because every year we're spending
We cannot figure it out.
literally 30% more than we make.
And what's the plan? If you were to ask a congressman, tell me about the plan.
This is good. I think we're getting into the meat and potatoes of some really 101 stuff, but it's so important that we understand this, you guys, for our families, because there are things that we can do about it, no matter what class we are, no matter where we live in the nation. Like if you don't have millions of dollars of assets, it's really important that we are clearly aware of this, because whatever we can do, we need to do.
Because if we're banking on a Social Security being here when we need it kind of game,
it's not enough money for people now, but let alone later.
Do the math.
Either way, so we're spending 2 trillion more than we're taking in, and there's no sign of that stopping. That's why people
Hold the phone. What's the plan? What's the meat and potatoes?
The plan.
What do they say the plan is?
Well, basically, and this is really tough, they're going to inflate as of now. I mean, they could have
This is what they would tell you the plan is. If I asked Congressman
I would say
Desjardins,
this is what the tracks in the snow are. Like, this is what they've done.
Yeah.
Now, is it what they forever intend to do forever? I don't know. They might have a plan to bankrupt the dollar at some point, or to switch to a central bank digital currency, or a hybridization of them. I don't know. And I'm not really here to...
Each congressman would speculate a plan? There's no plan. There's no central plan that's like, hey guys, here's the plan.
Each congressman works on a year of campaigning. Mm-hmm. They get into office. Mm-hmm. Then they have a year of their voting record, mm-hmm. of which they will campaign on the next year. Yeah. And
so they're doing very little.
They're doing very little. There's a whole issue in there.
Any more than we do.
No.
We might know more.
This is the weakness of democracy, unfortunately, is that, and someone has a great quote about when the voters realize they can vote themselves benefits.
Oh, yeah.
It's over. And we are
long past that.
We're 50, 60 years down that road.
I think it's like 47% of Americans are on benefits.
But here's the thing. That's almost unfair to say it. I'm not picking on you because that is a true statistic. But that's like SNAP benefits and stuff, right? What about all the corporate subsidies? Sure. What about all the farmers getting subsidies? What about all the...
Does that include Social
And I'm not
Security?
picking on farmers, okay? I'm saying we live in a nation of subsidization.
Does that include Social Security? Or is that just government assistance?
In my opinion, Social Security is not a government benefit.
It's like funded by us, hypothetically.
Honestly, this is going to be a tangent, but it's another tax because I pay into it, and in typical government fashion, I don't get even close to what I put into it back. So it's you should never pick on someone they're on Social Security. That person paid into that system if they're, a normal working American that worked a career or whatever. And then they got screwed by the government and didn't even get close to getting back what they paid in.
Wow.
So really, that's not a government benefit, in my opinion. You paid for Social Security.
Okay.
Either way, though, they're
You
going.
could also argue it's not a biblical principle. Retirement in general isn't really a biblical principle.
Sure, but I also think like this is where our dependency mentality, even though it's not, even though Social Security I don't think is like a government benefit, our dependency mentality, our faith in the government and not something else is what leads us to allow the government to dip into our paychecks
Yeah.
and take something for our entire life that they never pay back properly.
Sure.
Because even if they mandated that we put that money into a 401k, like if they automatically took it from us, but then put it in an account with our name on it,
Like for us.
that
would be
regular
better.
working Americans would have millions
Yeah.
of dollars from the time they started working at 17
Right.
to the time they stopped working at 50 years old
But
or
they
whatever,
take
60
it
years
and
old.
they spend it and they hope the rapture happens. That's my plan.
And-
That's how I do money.
That
I
never
take
should
it,
have happened.
I spend it, and I hope for the rapture.
And again, these things are just lessons that like, this is why it's so important that we are engaged, because a long time ago, somebody let Social Security slide and people asked for it instead of outright rejecting it. And think about what we are collectively allowing and asking for right now that will be flat out rejected by our children. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't be, if our children would reject it, then we shouldn't be allowing it or asking for it. That's a little bit of how I look at it. But either way,
That is not how the current older generation looks at things.
no, there's a lot of, I mean, Americans, we look at it as like, I got mine. And that's exactly how that's again, the dependency, the subsidization of our economy. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not picking on people who are poor and need SNAP benefits. I'm not picking on farmers. I'm not picking on corporations. Now we all have, corporations want to point out all the poor people are taking the money. Farmers want to say, I'm a farmer, I feed you. You can't criticize me. I need that money. Poor people want to say the corporations are taking all the subsidies. And I personally don't believe that anyone should be getting any of them because like
It's not a biblical
it's not
concept.
their money. It's not your money. And I believe that if all the money stayed in the right pockets, there'd be a lot more to help the poor, to invest in businesses, because that's essentially what corporate subsidies are, right? It's investments in businesses, but government investments in businesses aren't any good. You shouldn't get an investment in a business unless somebody says this is worth investing in the business, and then they risk the capital to see whether it works out or not. When we live in a system where corporations can just
fail.
go to send lobbyists to Washington to get millions of dollars for solar subsidies and wind farm subsidies that will never pay off, then the business doesn't become generating electricity with new and improved ways. The business becomes getting money out of Washington. And that's the only thing that matters. And that's where we are today. Anyhow,
Crony capitalism.
crony capitalism, that is what it's called. Crony capitalism. People love to hate on capitalism, but we don't live in capitalism.
We don't live in
We
capitalism.
live in crony capitalism, and I just basically explained it right there. But anyhow, we're spending way more money than we make. We have $38 trillion, which is 125% more than our entire economy does in a year.
Stressful.
And
This is a stressful
we're
conversation.
paying, and you guys, I'm going to come with solutions here in the end. So, but this is important to understand. Or there's things we have to do to face this world that if this causes fear in you, don't be afraid, because we're talking about it so that we can maneuver through it, so that we can lead our families through it, so that we can be there for our neighbors through it. So we're closing in on paying $1 trillion a year in interest on our $28 trillion of debt, which soon will be 30 trillion, etc. So
It's wild.
there's no end in sight to that, right? That is going. And so we can base a lot of our decisions. This is where, we can look at this as like macroeconomic stuff where you can look and go, okay, Congress shows no sign of cutting spending.
Of being alive.
I mean, we're spending 30% more than we take in. We're spending more money, not less. So not only are we not cutting 2 trillion to the point where we're not getting into more debt, we are on course to spend more money and get into more debt. So let's just say there's $100 trillion in existence, and 38 trillion of those is our debt. Well, one of the ways to make that debt not such a big amount is we can make more dollars. And
so the debt stays the same, but the number of dollars gets bigger. So the percentage shrinks.
So, like, I'll give you an example. If an old World War II vet maybe bought their house in, let's just say 1950 for like $7,000, right?
Real.
And they're on a 30-year mortgage for that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they only have to pay $7,000. Now, they were probably only making like, let's say $17,000 when they bought that house, because that's how much people made in relation to how much a house cost back then. Maybe $20,000, right? And a year. Now, 30 years later, he's been paying on that house. He's almost paid off, but maybe that same guy's making 45 because of inflation, wages have risen. Well, he only owes the $7,000 on his house. The dollars, you know what I mean? Like, and other houses around have gone up way in value. Now, he bought his house for $7,000. Fast forward 60 years, houses are $500,000. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we make an average of $79,000 a year. Wages have not kept up.
Yep.
But the inflation has caused assets to inflate. Now, that is not indicative of houses have gone up in value. We say that a lot.
Yeah.
Home values are up. Well, home prices are up. Mm-hmm. The cost of a house is up.
Yeah.
But the value is actually, the root of the value is in the dollar. When I go to buy a lumber package to build a house, and it's now $50,000 instead of $25,000, because those dollars, I could go so into the weeds, but in order to mine the minerals, to make a chainsaw, to cut the wood down, to make a tractor, to steel, to mine the ore, to make steel, to make a log skidder, to make a truck to carry the logs out, to et cetera, et cetera. So every element of our economy, these things are pressed by commodities, by hard assets. So when the dollar doesn't buy the same amount anymore, your house is going to be more expensive. Your car is going to be more expensive. When steel costs more to get out of the ground and turn into a product, everything down the line is going to go up, right? And so hence we have $500,000 houses, $80,000 cars that are like, well, it's not an $80,000 car used to be a G-Wagon, and now it's like a standard, 3/4 ton truck.
$80,000 used to buy you a nice house. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to buy a neighborhood if you go a little bit further back. So it's important to note, this is not like a bubble of everything. This is not going to pop and all go back to normal. And cars get cheap and
no, it is
and homes get cheap. The
nature of inflation.
Because if you go back to that World War II vet who could buy a Coke for a nickel, you know what I mean? And now a Coke is $2.89.
And it's
you know
not
what I mean?
Going to be a nickel ever again.
So my point is this is how it goes. So what we have to do is first we have to recognize the landscape for what it is.
It's not going back.
It's not going down. And
even when inflation goes down, the price of that good, it only means that price of that good won't go up as much. It does not mean oh, the price is going to go back down. Now, you do see some flexibility, like with eggs being so high and they came back down, but they didn't go down to $1 a dozen.
Well, it's also important to note that this is like we're staying on the surface level of economics here. There are a million things. Are there still housing bubbles? Yes. The reason why eggs were so expensive is a whole bunch of chickens got culled, all at once,
purpose.
got killed, right? And we had a massive
Supply
decline.
and demand is still a real concept.
The beef herds are down or are at like 73-year lows. Our beef cattle herds in the United States. Beef prices are high. You know what I mean?
I say all that. I just mean to say what we're getting at is people are like, man, I can't wait for groceries to go back down. And it's like generally they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not going to go back down.
The overarching theme is everything is getting more expensive. So we're going to get here. We're making progress here. I'm going to move on from this general subject. But basically, this inflationary period is often referred to as the great melt up. We're going to go through a period where things are going to go up. Now, hear me out on this, because this is what's so.
Melt ups happen in the past, and we're experiencing one now, or this is called the melt up specifically.
We are experiencing possibly a kind of strong, steady, possibly decade or more of inflation, culminating in who knows what. It could be doom and gloom. It could be
normalizing.
Yeah, who knows? But
when I say normalizing, I mean steadying out, not going back to quote unquote normal.
But honestly, I'm not going to go into that.
Melt up.
So basically, the melt up is where these assets are going to be repriced. They're going to go up. The hard assets, the commodities, the basis of an economy, the minerals, the land, the things that build things, the crude oil, everything's going to get more expensive is the bottom line. Now, if you are a person that has $10 million in assets, and some of it's in the stock market, and some of it's in land, and whatever.
Silver,
some of it's in
crypto,
gold and silver, or whatever. If your grocery bill doubles, but your portfolio doubled, so you went from 10 million to 20 million.
It's all relative.
But your grocery bill went from $1,000 a month to $2,000 a month. You don't care. Life is good for you. Your net worth doubled. Your grocery bill doubled,
but you
have 10 million more dollars than you had before. That's cool. You're totally happy, actually.
You want your portfolio to grow with the inflationary environment.
Now, if you are like most of us and you don't have a lot of assets, then your grocery bill doubles, but you're still making $79,000 a year, punching the clock, or whatever, 120, 140, whatever.
300.
But your grocery bill doubles, and your electrical bill goes up by 12%, and your new car payment is $1,100. Your car payment before that was $700. You know what I mean? And you can't buy a house for rent's $3,200 when it used to be $2,000, and you thought $2,000 was expensive. One class of people has no problem with the melt up. The other class of people really hurts. And so how can we, I know we're not just all going to bloom into millionaires and stuff, but there are a couple things we need to consider.
Quickly prioritize.
And one is, how can we become owners of assets that will outpace or pace the inflation? Because, when I do this, when I buy an iced coffee, that money is just gone forever.
Or I'm glad you know that. I'm just glad you know that.
When I buy an ounce of silver, but that silver paces inflation or outpaces inflation, I took that dollar, I took those dollars now and basically locked them into keeping up with or outpacing the increase in my grocery bill.
How much silver do you think you've drank?
Oh, a fortune. Especially with what it's done in the last, year
You
or
gotta
6
stop.
months.
We gotta, that's convicting. I'm convicted by the Holy Spirit right this minute for you.
For me. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the other side of the coin, so we buy assets. Buying, it might seem like buying land is crazy expensive. It won't ever be cheaper. Like there
it's
might be
gonna
dips
get
and down.
more
Like we're
expensive.
experiencing a correction in the market in Middle Tennessee right now. No doubt. I'm not the realtor guy who's like, it's always going up. But my point being is if you think it's expensive now, wait 5 years, wait 10 years, and you will wish that $10,000 land would come back.
That's always true.
The same way that right now we wish the $2,000 land would come back. $2,000 an acre, I should say, whatever. And same thing with homes, that it overall, they're not going to go back down to 100,000. You know, they're going to
when you
rise.
say a market correction, we're talking about 50 grand or less, right? Like we're talking about just
if you look at any
tapering
chart,
off of the
if you look at any chart of any stock, of any commodity, anything, it goes
He's doing things with his
up and
fingers.
down. Sorry, I forget. It goes up and down and up and down, up and down, up and down. But the general trend is
upward.
Is up. Or it goes out of business or whatever.
Yeah,
But like,
so a correction is one of those little mini downs, but it's not going down trend. It's not trending down. It's generally trending up. So a correction would be one of those little tiny down dips. But again, all those tiny down dips are followed by tiny up dips again, right? Like, and the general trend is upward. That's the difference between a correction and a trend.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying this to like tell you to buy houses or buy land like tomorrow. Use your discernment, be wise, make great decisions in the properties that you purchase. I'm just saying that 10 years from now, we will look back
glad.
just like we have every 10 years.
Yes.
You ask an old timer, and and the old timer before that, and every one of them, it was cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I know the lineage of our land, and it went for $300 an acre, it went for $1,300 an acre, it went for $2,300 an acre, and now it could be sold for $15,000 or more an acre.
And on that note, that is the single biggest jump in our, collective wealth or whatever you want to say, is buying land, buying this property. That is the biggest leap forward we've ever made. I mean, granted, we're not old people. And
I would say that and our
business.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Those are our two.
But
okay, so so if you can't afford to buy land or a house,
well, I think
what are other
it's not just a
assets?
can't. It's a either or both. Do you know what I mean? Like, do your best if you can to buy assets that will
Stop waiting if you can.
Right. And buy assets that will be worth more something down the line, and pace or outpace inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly is join the ownership society.
Well, hold on. Before we move to that,
Ownership class, I should
there's
say.
other assets like silver, like junk silver, like gold. If you can afford gold, if you can't afford gold, junk or silver. If you can't afford silver, junk silver. Like there are things you can get into at all different price points. It's
There's
not
everything.
just
I'm not a fan of all these things, but land, precious metals, and even the stock market. Now, I am not a big proponent of the stock market. However, objectively speaking, the stock market generally benefits from inflationary periods. Again, it comes back to like the cost of making a car goes up. Well, the revenue of that company, the worth of that company, it's all relative. It's not that it's a better company today than it was 5 years ago. It's just the
it
value
more to run that company.
of that company, not the value, the dollar cost of the assets of that company have grown,
which is why we keep having record-breaking stock market numbers over the last 10 years. Yeah, of course, because we've had record-breaking inflation. It's not that our economy, the stock market doing well is not an indicator of our economy doing well. Sometimes they connect and correlate, but oftentimes it is. Again, you see these wild and stock
again,
market numbers. And it's like, well, yeah, our dollar is
it
like,
comes back to you're hitting
so
on something.
weak.
You're the proof of my point before.
I
The
try to prove your
stock
point.
market has been amazing, but then you ask the middle class family making $79,000 a year, how are you doing? The guy with $10 million in the market goes, I'm up double. Is the $79,000 a year family up double?
Right.
No. So there is a difference in and segue into entering that like ownership
Yes.
class in any way we can. And I'm not like, we are not the best example of this. There's people who are listening or might be 10 times better than me. So I submit
100%.
this humbly and don't think that I'm trying to preach to you, but we got to own something where we benefit and we have the leverage power that the ownership class above us has, right? The reason why people have $10 million portfolios and things is they didn't do it by
They
punching a
bought
time
it.
clock, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. A few may have, but generally speaking, that is the exception, definitely not the rule. So owning something where, and we did touch on this like I don't know, 15 episodes ago, but we're going to, what?
I was just going to say, like, even someone who makes a lot of money per hour, their wealth is not coming from that hourly wage. It is from that their ability to own assets. So if you are a lawyer or a doctor or whatever that makes $300 an hour, that only means that you have the means to buy assets.
More assets,
yes. That's where your wealth is coming from. People mistake that, oh, you're a doctor, you make a lot of money per hour, that's why you're rich. No. They're rich because that money they get per hour is more and they're able to leverage it in to assets that grow their wealth. This is the difference between being rich and being wealthy is you can make a lot of money per hour. That does not make you wealthy unless you're putting that money in assets. And this is not where we are not perfect.
That's great. That's Kiyosaki stuff right there.
Kiyosaki. I'm glad you brought up Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, author. 17 and a half years ago, I was introduced to a network marketing business. And I want to share this because this is, Tom mentioned, other than buying our land, that network marketing business was the other thing.
Well, it was the reason.
It was the reason we were able to buy the land. Exactly.
So
because we were able to build something
of that
leveraged us into an asset that has grown significantly in the time that we've held that asset. So I just want to say, because I have to legally say this, my results are not typical. And you can go to earnings.arbonne.com to see what is typical in my particular company for people that are building businesses. Network marketing is a 100+ year old industry. And it is, and this is not my words, although I would repeat these words, I was convinced to do network marketing because of Robert Kiyosaki, who again authored the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in
and
the early 2000s,
business of the 21st century. And
in the early 2000s.
I want to say almost 90s, but yeah.
Maybe in the 90s. Okay. When I was
90s.
starting Arbonne all those years ago, almost 18 years ago. No, 17 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki had recently come out with the book, The Business of the 21st Century, and it was about network marketing. Now, I, probably like a lot of you, had a slightly negative view of network marketing. Now, I had that view because my mom did a network marketing company when I was young and did not, in fact, drive any fancy pink cars or, she didn't buy us a house with her network marketing earnings. Like, she didn't hit it big. And so I was like, yeah, a lot of people do things like that. There was the Tupperware lady. There was the this and that, right? And I never knew anyone who was really successful. And so I just assumed that network marketing was not a lucrative business model. It was, if anything, if anybody was successful, it was a couple $100s a month And don't get me wrong, that's not nothing. That is what I assumed network marketing was all about, because that is what my experience of those around me, just in a literal look around. Okay,
At this point, I would say take your couple $100s a month and buy gold.
Absolutely.
So it would be worth it. If you've got a network
Absolutely.
marketing business that's only bringing you a couple $100s a month,
buy gold.
Try to buy gold with it, and you're doing something for your family.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
no doubt.
When I was starting, that was my opinion of network marketing. But I was introduced to this book, The Business of the 21st Century by Robert Kiyosaki. I knew of Robert Kiyosaki because my husband, his dad, very entrepreneurial, my husband being very entrepreneurial minded, although not yet an entrepreneur at the time, had read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Obviously, Robert Kiyosaki had a reputation in the wealth building industry world. He was what does he do? Like financial advisor, or just a builder of wealth, like just a business guy?
I mean, he's an entrepreneur. He has been successful in lots of different businesses.
But traditional business, not network marketing. He himself did not build wealth in network marketing. I found that really interesting, that he would take his reputation and advocate for an industry that I thought was piddly. Like, why is Robert Kiyosaki writing an entire book about an industry that I see as like not extraordinary in any way? Well, I read the book, and you should too, The Business of the 21st Century. The synopsis is, network marketing is the only business opportunity. It is the only entry into entrepreneurship that is almost no risk as far as financial. You do not have to invest a bunch of capital into a network marketing business. You do not have to have a certain skill set. You do not have to have a certain resume. You do not have to have a certain education. Anyone from any walk of life at any age with any skills can come into a network marketing business and be taught or self-teach and build a business. Yes, of course it starts at zero, just like your Dutch Bro, just like your Taco Bell, just like any other business starts at zero or negative. As a matter of fact, the IRS expects every business to lose money for 3 to 5 years. That is the expectation. However, someone's in network marketing for 3 months, they haven't made their $100 yet, and they are like, obviously it's a scam. It's just wild. But again, I understand, because most of us, myself included, were not trained to be entrepreneurs. I was told to get good grades. Why? To get into a good college. Why? To get a good job, to get a good career. I was not told, and I'm not saying me, we were not teaching young adults to go and be entrepreneurs. Again, we've talked about this in other episodes. It used to be that 95% of Americans were entrepreneurs and 5% were employees. Now it's completely opposite that. Only 5% are entrepreneurs, and they employ the rest of you. And that is what's cool about network marketing. I don't employ anyone. I build other entrepreneurs, and I only get paid when I build someone else's paycheck. I don't get paid just for signing up somebody as a consultant. I don't get paid just for signing somebody up as a client. I only get paid when sales are made, when there is an actual product exchange. So if I say, Tom, do you want to be an entrepreneur? I can teach you how to do it. I do not get paid just for him saying yes. And if he says yes and works for 6 months and his efforts are fruitless, I don't get paid, okay? People have a misunderstanding about how network marketing works. I am invested financially in ensuring that Tom is successful and he makes some money, because I don't want to waste my time any more than anybody else. So if I'm going to show up and mentor and coach and be available to answer questions and blah, blah, blah to my mentorees, I had better be moving them towards money, because otherwise I'm not making any money, right? There is a mutually beneficial arrangement in network marketing that allows for entrepreneurship to flourish, okay? So yes, I did decide to become a network marketer. You guys, I went to college, but I went to college for theater, which no, you do not have to go to college for theater. So I didn't, nobody told me.
Some people went to college to be doctors.
Yeah, I went to college to be famous and marry Justin Timberlake, and here we are. Okay, so pretty close, right there. You
I got a touch of the Timberlake. You know what I mean?
Timberlake. You did have curly blonde hair at one time. That's about as close.
I think we share other traits, but that's just me.
You do sing. You are a singer.
Okay.
Okay.
So
You
keep going.
toured.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm
I
like,
love you.
feel
You have
like,
that in common.
okay, there's like I feel like we're like 90,
You're almost the
we're
same.
breaking the 90% comparison.
So I went to college, did the things. I did not have a particular skill set. I'm actually very introverted. I was not someone who was particularly self-motivated. I mean, that's kind of a funny thing to say. Here's what I did have when I said yes to Arbonne. I was very stubborn. And by that, I just mean no one was going to be right that network marketing doesn't work. And I didn't need to be at the top of the company for me to think network marketing was working. If I didn't have to work full time, in my head, network marketing was working. Okay. So that is the bar that I set, that will be achieved. Okay. That's my stubbornness. That will be achieved. I will make enough so that I don't have to work full time. Okay. And if I am making enough with my network marketing company that I don't have to work full time, then I am successful. And none of the people who said that this isn't going to work are right. I am right. Okay. So I was stubborn. And the other thing is, I was willing to work. I was willing to learn. Okay. I wasn't trying to get out of working. I was just trying to get out of working for someone else. I was trying to get out of working the 9 to 5. Like, I didn't even understand what Tom is talking about ownership class or really how entrepreneurship was going to benefit our family, other than if I didn't have to work full time. And here's where we were at when we said yes to Arbonne. Thomas was in the military. I was working in the medical profession. I worked 8 to 6:30 most days. I think I got off at 3:30 on Fridays sometimes. And Tom was shift work as a firefighter in the military. Okay. So he had the ability to work some overtime shifts, and he did.
Not in the military.
Not in the military. That's
Yeah.
right. But when you transitioned as a firefighter in the civilian world, he did have the opportunity to work overtime. I had some opportunity to work overtime. So we could make some extra money. But what's so funny about that is it very quickly becomes your normal, right? It feels like you have the ability to make more money than your base pay, but you still are exchanging time for money, and you can't work more than 24 hours a day. You just can't.
But the main thing is that it's,
Well, I want to continue to
Go
paint
ahead.
the picture. I remember very vividly sitting down to pay bills and crying because I would mail, this is before digital, online banking or whatever. I would mail a check like 2 days after it was due, but like before I was in trouble. Do you know what I'm saying? Knowing that by the time this makes it through, it's going to be postmarked, so I'm going to be okay. But by the time this makes it to the bank or the bill place, whoever's cashing this check, the check that I'm expecting will make it into my bank account, and that money will be there. But it wasn't there when I wrote the check. Anybody get that? You know what I'm saying? That paycheck to the nth degree feeling where I would literally stress out every time I paid bills because it was like that cup game of like, the money's not there today, but it should be there by the time this check gets to wherever it's going. Stressful, paycheck to paycheck situation. There's no question in my mind that we would still be living very similarly to that. Now, would we be making more money 17 years later? Absolutely. Would the inflationary environment we've just been talking about have caught up to us? Absolutely. And we would not be any further ahead, respectively. We would not be any further ahead, respectively. The only difference is I didn't quit my job. I added an opportunity to the side to start building a secondary asset, okay? And in the case of Arbonne, it actually is an asset because once you hit area manager, which is the second of 4 promotional levels, you actually do kick in to a willable, like that is something that stays if I die. My business exists beyond me, okay? Your employment never does that, right? So I did understand some of those things from the jump, just what I was building and how that would be significant if, as security net, a safety net if something happened. But again, my only goal was to not have to work full time. You guys, that simple decision and that, it's not a simple decision. It felt like a simple decision. I could say yes, or I could say no, and I could start to learn, or I'd stay the same, relatively insignificant decision. And it was not an immediate, like, oh my gosh, I have obviously made the right choice. That I don't know that I felt I had obviously made the right choice until maybe 2 years in.
Yeah.
Then
maybe
it was
three,
very
yeah.
clear.
No, 2.5.
Okay, I have obviously made the right choice. This is now outpacing what I could have been earning in my regular job if I would have stayed in my regular profession. And of course, compound that over time. Again, when you have the ability to put your hand on something, your elbow grease into something, this is why people flip houses. You can put your own effort into something and create value. You're unstoppable. You are literally unstoppable.
And you're not creating value for someone else.
You are creating value for
creating
yourself.
value for you and your family.
In an asset that you hold that you can create more income to then buy more assets. So to your point, if I would have never said yes to Arbonne and built an asset, I don't have an hourly wage. I built an income that allowed for us to buy an asset, which allowed
Or
for
assets,
us
yeah.
assets, but of course this farm being one,
Yeah.
that allowed us to grow far outpacing anything that we could have done. And again, my story is not typical. Go to earnings.arbonne.com to see what's typical.
And the main thing is that, like,
I'm just
obviously
wanting to explain the mechanism.
our path was and still is marked and by network marketing and our specific company we're with, Arbonne. What we're telling you though is now is a time where, like, it's not a I want to get ahead time. It's a I have to get ahead.
I can't stay in the rat race.
Whether you start mowing lawns for people or a painting company or whatever,
or buy land or buy gold or start network marketing.
Well, that's the set. Buying assets is one thing.
Yes.
And then
creating,
joining the ownership class in any way. When I say ownership class, it almost sounds a little elitist. I don't mean it that way. I'm like, you own your own thing that you can grow, that benefits
Ownership
you the
of
most
business.
when it grows.
Yes.
Right? That's what I mean. It could be anything. It could be a t-shirt business.
Gosh, I was thinking the other day, we encouraged a friend of ours at church to go off on his own and do, mainly you did. It was like a social media company where he does content for companies. And oh my gosh, over the last couple of years, what
First of
he
all,
has grown.
Zach, I won't take any credit for that.
Oh, I know you guys had a lot of conversations.
Definitely encouraging of you, no doubt. But
about that. But I am just so, it has encouraged me so much to see what that risky air quote decision to do something outside of employment, outside of the box, has paid dividends.
Well, and I'm so glad you said risky, because these things are risky. But
No. Everything is risky.
Well, that's what hold on, let me finish.
Okay, I was like, they're
the reason why something is worth taking a risk today, here in the now, is because we just talked about what the definitive risks are of doing nothing.
They're
Does that make
there.
sense? And so that's why now
keeping your
is
head
a
in the
time.
sand is a very risky move.
Now is the time to take risks to build something that
To get
benefits
ahead.
you and your family the most, so that you can
Stay
make
ahead.
financial moves and strategic moves that allow your family to not just survive, but thrive. And you guys, it's little things, like, in a way, I'll bring it back to the Arbonne thing. Like, it was a little decision when our Arbonne business was nothing for Wendy to try it out and give it a shot that led to the largest road less taken in our life.
No question.
That set us up, and it's oftentimes it's a little decision ahead of time that makes all the difference down the road. When you look back, and we do this a lot, we look back and go, man, if we hadn't gone down that road, where would we be? And God is good. God would have a plan for that, but God's plan was here, and I'm so grateful for it. But again,
it is work. No matter what you choose, It is work. It is not, oh, you just make the decision and then 17 years later, it's all good. It's like, it is work. It is work when you don't want to do it. It is hard. It is adding something to your plate. It is all those things, but it's necessary. It is almost mandatory. You have to do something to get into assets that are going to inflate with the market.
When you say it's necessary, it's mandatory, I believe to truly to stay out of the survival realm, but actually have a chance at the thriving realm in the coming decades. And I'm talking a year from now and 10 years from now.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, way down the road, 10 years from now, you might want to think about this. I'm talking, we're living in it right now.
Oh, yeah.
We've already seen, you guys already know how much cars cost. You already know how much homes cost. You already know how much your groceries cost. Like, this is already happening. What I'm saying is it's not over. We're just seeing the beginning of it. So if we start taking proactive action today, there's actually great possibilities. If we just keep doing the same, we're going to feel like the world is closing in around us. What happened? I'm working just as hard. I'm doing all the same things, but life is harder and harder, and the bills aren't adding up. The time is now to take some risk and work even harder, but let it be so that your family gets the most benefits from it, and not just a corporation or a share, the guy with the $10 million already who's trying to get 20, you should get yours. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and that's the risk was for me, not even financial. The risk was time. I might invest a year into this and it won't work. And Robert Kiyosaki, we've said this on other podcasts, we dramatically underestimate what we can do in 5 years and we overestimate what we can do in 1 year. It takes time to build an asset. It takes time to see that appreciation. Like when we bought silver, however long ago we bought silver, it's not like to the moon, and that's where people get really, there's no patience. This is why people are attracted to crypto, I think, in a lot of ways, is like it can go up really quickly and people really love that instant payoff. Don't get me wrong, I love an instant payoff, right? This is why people gamble. They want to leave that night with
rich.
Thousands of dollars that they didn't have. We know that even with gambling, the statistics are against you in that endeavor, right? Now, if you took that same $1,000 that you took to the casino and you invested it into something that was slow growing, it's crazy where you'll be 5 years, 10 years down the road. So I'm saying, think of your time in the same way. If you can't just buy something, but if you can just, sorry, our dog is barging in on our studio right now.
Call him up there.
Come here, Cammy. Come here, Bubbies. Oh, here's our garden. If you can invest time into an asset, it is if you don't have the money to invest into an asset and you can invest time into an asset,
time into building an asset. That's what network marketing is.
It's just as good. It's just as good. It is the sweat equity, the elbow grease. But do me a favor if you do that and give it enough time. Give it enough time to actually appreciate and to actually grow, because you're right, you're growing something from zero. And I don't just mean your clientele, I mean your skill set, your leadership, your mental state, your mindset. All of that is relevant in entrepreneurship, regardless of whether it's network marketing or starting a traditional business. All of those things need time to develop. So give it enough time and don't be in it for the quick and easy payoff. Like, same with your portfolio in stocks. No financial advisor is going to be like, yeah, give me your money, and like a year from now, you're going to be rich. It's all about the time, because the time's going to pass one way or another, unless the rapture's soon. And the inflationary environment we are living in, which is currently a certainty, you want your assets to inflate with it.
And current and upcoming, there's, we're obviously talking a lot about just the straight up like financial element of things right now, but there's some other kind of more family strategy approaches that I want to touch on in future episodes, just around like for those people who are seeing this and going, yeah, you guys, I see this too. I'm really serious about navigating it and coming out the other side better, not worse than I am today. That's why we're talking about it, is to have a shot at flourishing and not just surviving. But there's more than just the financial side of things. There's some really important elements of, how to kind of layer some of these things, and also how do we raise our kids through it, because they're going to grow up. So just as much,
I'm not gearing my kids towards college is the only road. I'm like, entrepreneurship is the only road. If you want to go to college to get a skill set to be
that's
a
that's
particular
even just
kind.
one element. But we're raising children that hopefully, and unfortunately, they're probably going to see the worst of it more than we may even, and we need to prepare them to be able to flourish, not just survive in this world. So we're going to kind of, this is going to be a little bit of a theme here and there, and I'm looking forward to kind of having more of those discussions that aren't just on the like financial and asset side, but continuing to fill out that like holistic picture of living in America in the 250th year of our nation.
Wow.
Raising kids and living life as a Christian nationalist.
In closing, what are gold and silver doing right now?
Well, since we last checked in,
since we went on a couple tirades early on
gold has now pretty solidly set itself up above 4,000. It is in the, I want to say 4,200 something.
That's wild.
Which, mind you, when we started this podcast, when was that?
It was still under, that was a month after Charlie Kirk died.
Okay, so October?
October.
Okay, so that would be, it was like, it is up, let's see, in the last, goodness gracious, it's up $1,500 this year. It's up about $1,000 since like September-ish or something. And it's
up $1,000.
That's like 25% in 3 months. And again, you guys, this is in gold is different. It's indicative of a of the market knowing that like things will never be the same again.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a repricing of our most fundamental money, oldest money. Silver is, let's see, in the last year, it started off the year in the high 20s, low 30s. Yeah, something like that. And it's at almost $59. So it's up 80% for the year.
That's so wild in 1 year.
And again, I don't say this as like, oh, this is a great investment.
What's the 5 year?
The 5 year for silver is not as crazy because it's hovered for so long. It lived in the 20s. Now silver's we could do an episode on this, but silver's been manipulated by the London exchange for decades. Goldman Sachs had people go to prison over the manipulation of the price of silver. Now, gold, less manipulated because it's just so.
So what's the 5 year?
But the 5 year for gold, it was at like 1,400 5 years ago, and it's at 4,200.
Is that the percentage? 87%?
188%, 189%.
89% in 5 years.
Yeah. And there's a good chance that if this inflation just continues on, which we built a pretty strong case that there's just no way out of it, these hard assets, gold and silver are just examples. There's platinum, there's palladium, copper's I think about to hit a record high or already hit a record high. There's plenty of things that this is just one thing or one element of it, but those things ride upwards with inflation, therefore preserving, your purchasing power, basically. So what that I don't want to go too far down into. We've talked about gold before and how it's special.
I'm
and blah,
just
blah, blah,
amazed at it.
But it has been a pretty
I'm glad
fun
you
to
made
watch.
me buy it all those years ago. Good job. Way to know things.
I wish I would have bought more. I wish I would have bought platinum, and I wish I would have, done a lot of things. I wish I would have bought more land, but I'm grateful for every bit that we did. And honestly, I'm grateful. I'm super grateful that you took the road less traveled, that we went down that Arbonne network marketing path, because
Well, it's also leveraged you into entrepreneurship.
it opened so many doors. There's like
Yeah.
the time freedom. We have fundamentally been present parents from the day that our first children were born. We have homeschooled. And again, it's not a brag, it's a gratitude of just like,
Oh, yeah.
had we not done that, how things would be so different. And so again, and that comes into the things I want to talk about again more in the future of like, we just talked about finances tonight, or we just talked about that element, like the making of enough money to survive in the coming years. There's so much more to talk about in just like the family strategy, raising a family in this coming decade.
You must have a golden retriever, obviously, if you're planning to have any joy in the inflationary environment.
Really good return on investment, this guy.
So good.
He's a good guy.
All right. Well,
And
thanks
his head
for
looks so big in the picture.
thanks for
larger than
watching, listening, learning. Of course, send your questions, topics, comments, rate the podcast, share the podcast, all the things. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Modern Watchman podcast.
Remember, truth isn't just something we believe, it's something we live out every day.
Stay alert, stay discerning, and don't lose sight of the hope we have in Christ.
Until next time,
Be watchmen.